We're going to look at some candy companies today. It says Jasmine is checking the production documents that specify the distance along the conveyor belt in feet as a function of time and seconds for each candy. So, a lot of places when they make the candy, it's on a conveyor belt. So it looks like, you know, they drop the candy. Maybe if they're making like Hershey Kisses, right? It makes a little dollop and then it goes down the conveyor belt to the next piece. This first question gives us, it says, using the tables determine the slope, the rate of change, or the M. So remember, this is our change in Y over our change in X. So remember, you can pick any 2 points. Which points do you want to pick here? Do you just want to start with the first two? What did you get? How did your Y's change? Remember, on a vertical table, first one is X, second one is Y. How are our Y's changing? 20 to 30. Very nice. Plus 10. And how are our X's changing, or our time in seconds? Plus 2. So remember, change in Y over change in X. Is it 2 over 10 or 10 over 2? 10 over 2 is what?
10 or 5.
It's 5. And remember, we talked about using labels. So our Y is distance. I think it was feet, and time, T, is going to be seconds. So that candy goes 5 feet down the conveyor belt every 1 second. So looking at Astro bars, again, here's your X, here's your Y. How do you go from 20 to 26? Plus 6. And how do you go from 0 to 2? Plus 2. 2 over 6 or 6 over 2? 6 over 2, very nice. What do you know about 6 over 2? 3 feet every 1 second. And you're going to see me put those labels because we have to understand there's a context there. So we've got our slopes. It says on number 2, how does the rate of change, the slope, the M, for each candy compare to the equation? I want you to look at those equations. So Sweet Dot says D equals 5T plus 20, and Astro Bars D equals 3T plus 20. We got 5 as our slope for Sweet Dots. Where do we see that? Where do we see that in our equation? Do we see the 5? Right here. Do these match? That is our slope. What about in Astro Bars? Here's our 3. They match. So where do we see the slope in an equation? I want you to realize that this is Y equals mx plus b, right? So here is our slope. So our slope is always next to the what letter? The variable, the slope. What do we call a number next to a variable? Do you remember from Unit 1? The coefficient of x, right? Or the number in front of x. So using technology, so I'm going to show you in Desmos a minute, we're going to graph y equals 3x plus 20. And we're going to find the slope of the graph. Based on that equation, what do you think the slope is on that equation? Based on what we just talked about. We said a minute ago, y equals mx plus b. So yeah, the slope should be 3. How do we find that in a graph? How do we find slope in a graph? We should be able to count rise over run, okay? So when we looked at that in the graph, we went up 3 and over 1. So our slope was still 3 over 1, just like in our equation. So sometimes candy has a coating, kind of like M&Ms. So if it gets a coating, it has to cool, right? They put the coating on it, it has to cool so that the shell gets hard. And when that happens, we have our temperature, and it has to sit in that temperature for a certain number of minutes, okay? So what's different about this equation? This says use the equation from the manual to solve for y and get an equation in slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b. That's the form you know forever and ever and ever. For the cooling specifications, well, look right here in my manual. Is that y equals mx plus b? Can we change it to y equals mx plus b? Have we seen this before? We have. What do you want to do first? When you see those parentheses, what do you want to do first? Yeah, let's distribute. Be very careful with our signs. This is in our bubble notes from Unit 1. So when we distribute a negative 4 times x, what do we get? Negative 4x. And a negative 4 times a negative 2. Be careful. What kind of 8? Positive 8. Thank you. Is it in y equals mx plus b form yet? No. What do we need to move to get that y by itself? 82. We're going to have to add it because it's an opposite. So step 2, move. Remember, that's called a constant. And again, these are in your bubble notes. So now I have y equals negative 4x. Do we know what 8 and 82 is? Plus 90. So back to question 4 then. Solve for y. We got y equals what? Negative 4x plus 90. And use the graph. Okay, how do we find slope on a graph? Notice that word rate. Rate just is the same thing as slope, or m. So our rise over our run, this is exactly what we've been doing. It's just kind of a recap, putting all the things together. Look, I made this graph nice and neat for you. Find your pretty points. Pay attention to your scale, though. The scale on this is tens, which can mess us up sometimes. Look at on our x's, it's like halves, 2.5. So we probably don't want to use that 2.5. Maybe we jump to this 5. What do you notice about the line? What is it doing? What is it doing? It's going down. What does that mean about our slope? It is negative. It is negative. So we're going to count down. Be careful with your slope or your scale. How many did we go down? 90 to 70. Down 20. Make sure you put a negative there. And over how many? Pay attention to your scale. We went from 0 to 5. So 5. Is it going to be 5 over negative 20 or negative 20 over 5? Negative 20 over 5 is what?
Negative 4.
Very nice. Negative 4. And we can use our labels. Negative 4 degrees. And then our x was 1 minute. So that means that the candy coating has to cool 4 degrees every minute. So when we come back over here to number 5, what was that cooling rate? What did we just say? Negative 4 degrees every 1 minute. The chocolate must cool at a rate of no more than 12 degrees. What does it mean if it's cooling? Is that a positive or a negative? That is a negative. I'm going to put a big minus on that. Kind of looks like I crossed it out, but it's a negative. So does this match if I go negative 12 in 3 minutes? What do you know about negative 12 over 3? Is that going to be the same slope as what we just did? Should be, because this reduces to negative 4. So notice when we did our graph, we got our slope of negative 4, which was here in our equation, and then just now with the 12 and 3, it matches there in the equation. So they all tie together. We're looking at cases of candy that they ship out every day. So we have 3 different types of candy, and it's asking us about the slope. Okay, well, what do you notice on sweet treats or sweet dots? Can we write y equals mx plus b underneath that? It's asking us for the slope, the rate of change, the m. So that's a nice little equation there. What is our slope? What is our coefficient? What is it going to be? Our slope is 10. Very nice. And if you look at the situation, It said 10 cases in one day. It's a positive. So is our demand for sweet dots increasing or decreasing? Because this is a positive. It is increasing. If it's a positive, it's gonna go up. They want more cases sent out every day. Is twisters in y equals mx plus b form so we can find the slope? No. What are we gonna need to do on twisters? Yeah, we're gonna distribute like we did a minute ago. So n minus 450. What do we get when we distribute? What's negative 25 times t? Negative 25t. Be careful with your signs here. A negative 25 times a negative 2. Negative times a negative is a positive. 50. Thank you. And then I need to get my n or my y by itself. What am I doing with that 450? I'm adding it. Very nice. What do I get when I add 450?
500.
Very nice. So n equals negative 25t plus 500. So which of these is my slope? Remember, we can write y equals mx plus b. What's my slope? Very nice, negative 25. So I can say negative 25, and we are talking about cases in one day. Is the demand for twisters increasing or decreasing? Ooh, it is decreasing. How do we know it's decreasing? Very nice, because it's a negative. Decreasing demand. And then we have one more. We have astrobars. Ooh, what do you notice about astrobars? Is this in y equals mx plus b format?
It's a little incomplete.
It's a little bit incomplete. Do I have a number in front of my letter? Do I have a coefficient? What's the number that we never write if there's none? What number means none?
Undefined.
0. So could I do this? Could I say 0
I thought
t?
you were talking about absolute nothing.
Does this make sense? If there's not a b, could I, or a m? So here's my b, here's my mx. What's my slope here? 0. So my slope on this is going to be 0 cases in one day. Now let's think about that. Does that mean that they're not making any, or does that mean what? What does 0 slope look like? Is it a vertical or a horizontal? This is a horizontal line. So that means that our demand is constant, right? It's going to be the same amount every day. It's not changing. Doesn't mean they're not making any. Just means that they're ordering the same amount each time.
Astrobars is living this.
Let's see. What do we get when we distribute? You should get negative 2x minus 2. Be very careful with your sign, yes? How do you move your constant? What is your constant? This constant is our 4, right? So then we get negative 2x plus 2. The question is, convert it to slope-intercept, which we did, and identify the slope. What's our m?
2x.
Careful. Negative 2. Got to keep the sign. Is this line going up or down? Down. Very nice. Very nice. And then tell me about the slope on A. They want to know which ones have the same slope. What's the slope on A? Y equals mx plus b. So our slope is 4. What about on B? Do we have to change it on B? We got to change it to y equals mx plus b. Let's put a 1 in front of that y. This is, again, our bubble notes. Move our ax. Do you remember this from Unit 1? Don't forget that negative when you rewrite it. Divide by negative 1. This is not going away, guys. Negative 6 plus 3 Now it's y equals mx plus b. What's my slope? Be careful. What's my number in front of my x? 3 is our slope. So even though we didn't write it exactly in that format, I mean, we could rewrite it if we wanted to. We could say y equals 3x minus 6. We talked about how you can switch the order. What about on C? We got to do our distributing like we did a minute ago. 4x minus 16. Move your 5. We did this all in unit 1. What is my slope on this one? 4. Good. Oh, look, those two match. What do you think about D? Do you think it's going to match? No. If I move my x, my slope is -1 on this one. We don't have to divide because it's already a positive.